Jai Jashodanandana, Jai Brajajan Ranjana, Jai Brajajan Ranjana. Jai Brajajan Ranjana, Jamuna Tiravana Chare Joy Kunja Behare Kunja Behare Joyam Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Paribrajaka Avhacharan Arabinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Samaveta Gaud Bhakta Vrinda ki. Navadip Maipo Dham ki. Sri Sri Nitai Gauda Shitanath Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Swadam Upagate Dharma Jnana Dibi Shah Kalonashta Drishamesha Purana Karunudita. dvāra etayor niviviśuḥ miṣator apṛṣṭvā. pūrvā yathā puraṭa-vajra-kapāṭikā. sarvatra viṣamayā munayaḥ sva-dṛṣṭyā. sañcaranty avihatā vigatābhiśaṅkāḥ. dvāry etayor niviviśur miṣator apṛṣṭvā. pūrvā yathā puraṭa-vajra-kapāṭikā. sarvatra viṣamayā munayaḥ sva-dṛṣṭyā. sañcaranty avihatā vigatābhiśaṅkāḥ. Please chant. Matri Manduli. Dvāri, in the door, etayor, both doorkeepers, niviviśuḥ, entered miṣatoḥ, while singing apṛṣṭvā, without asking pūrvāḥ, as before, yathā, as puraṭa, made of gold, vajra, and diamond, kapāṭikāḥ, the doors, yathā, which sarvatra, everywhere, te, they, aviṣa-mayā, without any sense of discrimination, munayaḥ, the great sages, sva-dṛṣṭyā, out of their own will, yea, who, sañcaranty, move, avihatā, without being checked, vigatābhiśaṅkāḥ, without aviṣa-mayā, doubt. Translation and purport by ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sages, headed by Shonak, had open doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds, they entered the seventh door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the 6 other doors, which were made of gold and diamonds. Purport: the great sages, namely Shanak, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar, although very old in years, maintained themselves eternally as small children. They were not at all duplicitous, and they entered the doors exactly as little children enter places without any idea of what it is to trespass. That is a child's nature. A child can enter any place and no one checks him. Indeed, a child is generally welcome in his attempts to go places. But if it so happens that a child is checked from entering a door, he naturally becomes very sorry and angry. That is the nature of a child. In this case, the same thing happened. The childlike saintly personalities entered all the 6 doors of the palace, and no one checked them. Therefore, when they attempted to enter the 7th door and were forbidden by the doormen who checked them with their sticks, they naturally became very angry and sorrowful, as an ordinary child would cry. But because these were not ordinary children, they immediately made preparations to punish the doormen, for the doormen had committed a great offense. Even to this day, a saintly person is never checked from entering anyone's door in India. Srila Prabhupada ki. Vandayaham Sri Guru, Shri Jutapara Kamalang, Shri Gurun, Vaishnavangscha, Sri Rupam, Shagarajatam, Shahagana Raganatam, Mitam Tangsha Jivam, Sadvaitam, Shavadutam, Parijanasayatam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Sri Radha Krishna Padan, Shahagana Lalita, Shibhishakanvitamscha, Mantra Guru, Jokta, Shikha Guru Gonta, Chadane, Age, Korea Bandon, Vanchagalvat Rubi Shtakripa Shendabevacha Potitanam Pavanevo Vaishnavu Namo Namaha Mukham Karitiba Chalam Pangam Langa Ete Girim Jat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Namo Vishnu Padai Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharne Nivishesha Shandavari Prashtatta Desha Tadane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadha, Shri Vasari, Gau Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Today is the most auspicious day of the Akshaya Tritiya. And how fortunate I am to be able to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam here in Mayapur on the banks of Maganga, in the association of the Pranayi Bhakata, loving devotees. Sutam prasangam mama virya samvida bhavanti rikkana rasayana kata. The mama virya samvad, the discussions of my glories, mama virya, my wonders, my power, samvada, discussions. Sutam prasangam, in association of the sat, in association of the bhavanti rikkana rasayana kata. That this produces the rit, karna, in the heart and in the ear, rasayana kata, the blissful taste. So if today, by discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm able to evoke feelings of bliss in your heart, then what a gift to the Vaishnavas that will be, and such, how I will be eternally benefit for that. So I'm very indebted to Rashamai Nityananda Prabhu for requesting me to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam on this most auspicious day, in this most auspicious place, in this most august association. So this day is significant. Akshaya Tritiya, that it is said that Vyas Muni began writing the great epic Mahabharata on this day, and that the Ganga descended to the earth on this day, and that on this day, if you go to Yamunotri, Gangotri, Bhadrinath temples, which are closed in the winter because everything ice is over, so they are opened again on this day, and they remain open for the subsequent months until being closed again. And also this day is the beginning of Chandan Yatra, which is very special in Mayapur, perhaps within the Tribhuvanai, within these three worlds. Where is Chandan Yatra celebrated as opulently and luxuriously as Sridham Mayapur, where the deities of Sisi Radha Madhav and Nrsingadev and Panchatattva, they're anointed with the Chandan paste for months. We've been seeing devotees grinding the chandan to be able to, every day they cover, the whole body is covered. This is very opulent, very extraordinary. Chandan, because of the heat. So Chandan Yatra, also Sri Sri Radha Madhav, Nauka Bihar, boat festival also begins today. So these are some of the unique features of the Akshaya Tritiya day, which we're celebrating today. So Srila Prabhupada, he's explaining in this purport how even to this day a saintly person is never checked from entering anyone's door in India. Well, perhaps in these days this is perhaps not as absolute as Prabhupada is indicating when he's writing this. 50 years ago. Although still, however, I remember when I was first traveling in India that the sadhus on the train, they didn't have to show ticket on the train. The sadhus could just enter the train. I don't know about nowadays. I don't know. I think nowadays they're charged. Things are degrading, and in the big cities, it's difficult to get to anyone's door these days. They live in compounds, in apartment buildings, in compound, and there's security. And to get past the security, it's not an easy task. Not an easy task. Even we have our Newtown Mandir. There's big apartment buildings there, and the devotees. When we began Newtown. It's not far from the airport. A wonderful project. So much land, 20 acres and more. It's a wonderful Goshala, big project. Because Srila Prabhupada said that he wrote a letter to Gargamuni saying that you, my disciples, you should do something unique and extraordinary in my place of birth in Kolkata. So we're developing a unique and extraordinary temple there in ISKCON, Newtown. And there's a big apartment building there, and devotees were saying when they were first preaching in that area, they could never get into that place. There's thousands of apartments. Actually, there's thousands of apartments in that one compound. And the devotees could never get into that place, never get in. And now, we have a couple of apartments there, and now the security, they salute us when we drive through. They salute. So but that's not like that. It's not like that everywhere. Not like that everywhere. I used to go collecting in the remote places in Australia when I was there in the early days in my spiritual life. We were collecting in remote places, and we'd go to the farmers. Sometimes they're called a ranch. A ranch, a huge 5,000 acres, 20,000 acres of land, ranch. And sometimes you'd only visit you'd see 3 or 4 people in a day. That's how rare it was. Rare. And when people in Australia, you come to the door, then they say, "What's your problem, mate?" What's your problem, mate? It's like people only come to see them with problems. Now, 500 years ago, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, things were different. And even now in the village, now in village, you don't often see walls around people's properties. You don't see walls. And in the village, it's hard to actually determine where one's property ends and another property begins. I lived quite a significant period of time in villages in Bengal, and oftentimes you'd see somebody just walking through the yard. just walking through the yard, and no one seems to have any problem with that. They just walk through the yard, and then they go through some other path, and they go off and the village path. And now, you can imagine that because these events happened here, they happened here. So we have the adhikar to discuss the Gaur Lila. It happened here. Every day we should be discussing. Adikonda Kota, Jai Amrit Shravan, Vrindavan Thakur is explaining. Adikonda Kota, Adikonda, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adikonda Kota, Jai Amrit Shravan, the nectarian, Amrit, nectarian, this hearing. Jai Shishu Rupe Krida Kore Narayan. Wherein the Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan, Vaikuntha Nath, Shishu Rupe, in the form of a child, Krida Kore performs his playful pastimes. Yeah, it's extraordinary, the Kumaras. Just to get an idea of actually how old they are, they're so young that they can't even discriminate between, like generally we say, they don't know between right and wrong. Like children, they haven't really worked that out. They just do anything. So they're so young, they can just wander here and there. That's the Kumaras, amazing. And they're very old and experienced acharyas, but they chose to be able to keep that innocent, childlike innocence. It's very extraordinary, the example of the Four Kumaras is very extraordinary. So, and they were able to to enter in that way. So one day, one itinerant mendicant, he entered into the house of Jagannath Mishra here in Maya. He entered into the house of Jagannath Mishra, and of course that was the environment in those days, that the Kartika, the wandering pilgrim, could simply go from one place to another. Gita explains, 16th chapter, Abhayam, Shatra Shankshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Vivashtiti, the sannyas dharma. First verse, 16th chapter, Daivi Sampat, divine qualities, sannyas dharma, Abhayam. Abhayam means that they're not concerned about the next meal. They're not ever thinking about how I will eat today. Abhayam, and where I will stay tonight. They never even think about that, because there's Jnana Yoga Vivashtitaha, because they're so absorbed in the philosophy of Krishna. Jnana Yoga Vivashtitaha. They're only absorbed in discussing the Atma Tattva, the science of the soul, and Bhagavad Tattva. And they're so absorbed in that they forget. Nidra aha viharakaji vijito. Atanta dino, the Goswamis, Srinivasa Acharya described Nidra, aha, the sleeping, aha, eating, bihar, recreational activities, Nidra, aha, viharakadi, etc., vijito, they completely lost interest in. They completely lost interest in. The Goswamis, they lost no interest about a residence. Aniket, when the devotees from Bengal would go to Vrindavan, the Gaudiya, Gauda Hoite, and devotees from Bengal would go to Vrindavan and then return to Gaudadesh. Then the devotees of Rupa and Sanatan, their followers, they would inquire, how are Rupa and Sanatan situated in Vrindavan? What are their activities? How do they, their daily activities? What do they eat? How do they sleep? And Kaviraj Goswami is describing their activity. Aniket, the Duha, these two brothers, Rupa Sanatan, Aniket, without a home, without a residence, without a room. Aniket, Niket, Shanti Niket, residence. Aniket, no residence. Even in our sannyasis, many of our sannyasis have a permanent room. And that's okay in ISKCON. They have a base, and they have their library and their things, then they travel from that place. So no one ever places objection to that. Who can live without some place, at least to keep a few things? Although we heard that His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami, he only had two possessions: his deities and a watch that Prabhupada gave him, and nothing else. Niskinchan. So the Goswamis, Aniket, without a room, Aniket, Duha, Bone Jota Brikagon, Bone in the forest, Jota Brikagon, however many trees there are, Ekek Ratre, Ekek Brike Tole, Ekek Ratre Shayon, Ekek Ratre Shayon. Each night they would lie down, Ekek Brike Tole, under a tree, under a different tree each night. How exalted is that? How renounced is that? It's extreme. Nidra, aha, viharakadi, recreation. No recreation. Nidra, aha, viha. Vijito, they completely conquered, lost interest in. Atanta dino. However, they were not at all proud of that. They were not at all proud of that. They were atanta dino, means excessively humble. Excessively humble. And even though they were so qualified in academics, in administration, in everything, in bhakti, they're nitya siddha. They're nitya siddha. Eternally liberated souls. Nitya siddha. It's all lila they're performing. And yet when they introduce themselves, we introduce ourselves, they read the introduction, all of the things you've done in ISKCON, they read it out. We want to make sure everybody knows, one after another, this position, that. Then we make sure everybody knows, and we're all detailed, and nothing is skipped. And they were so qualified, and they introduced themselves in front of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jyoti, Sanatana Goswami. He falls to the feet of Goswami, of Mahaprabhu. Nicha Jyoti, Nicha Shangi, Potit Odhom, Ku Bishai Kupe, Goinu Janam. Nicha, who am I? Nicha Jyoti, low birth, Nicha Shangi, degraded association, potit odom, sinful odom, the lowest of man. Kubishai kupe. The Kubishai kupe, the well, the deep well of Kubishai, not just Bishai, Kubishai, extensive sense enjoyment. Kubishai kupe goinanu jonom. I've wasted my life in the deep dark well of extensive sense enjoyment. And it's not like we say, oh, Prabhu, when we say, oh no, I'm the most fallen. But we don't really believe it. That's the language in ISKCON. No, Prabhu, I'm so fallen. But no, I'm not so fallen. There's so many more people more fallen than me. We say it, but they're actually believing it. They're actually believing it. This is the soul. When the Digvijay was coming into Navadip, the Digvijay and all the scholars in Navadip, Chatuddik hoite lok Navadipe jai. Navadip orle she biddarashpai. And Navadip was for learning. From all directions, Chatuddik hoite lok Navadipe jai. They're coming to Navadip. Why? Navadip orle she biddarashpai. If you study in Navadip, you get taste for learning. So such scholars were here in Navadip. When they heard the Digvijay was coming, they're all traumatized. What will we do? He's defeated everybody. He'll defeat us. The name of Navadip will be tainted. What to do? We'll run away. And they approach Nimai. What to do? Sarva Navadipe Sarva Lok Hoilo Dhoni Nimai Pandit Odda Pak Shiromani. All through Navadip, Sarva Lok Hoilo Dhoni. All you could hear from the lips of the residents of Navadip. Nimai Pandit Odda Pak Shiromani. Nimai Pandit is the crest jewel of all the professors. And they approached him. What to do? and Bishambar, Vijamani, the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins, Vijamani, he said, actually, this Pandit, he will learn, he will be taught a lesson, he will learn. And he said, just like a tree laden with fruit, it hangs low. A tree laden with fruit hangs low. So the more one develops the divine qualities as a result of Krishna consciousness, shashti, bhakti, bhagavat, akinchana, shavai, guna, shtatra, samashate, shudaha, all of the shavai, guna, samashate, shudaha, all the divine qualities of the devatas, they develop in the character of one who is devoted to the Lord. But the more that one becomes qualified in the devotional character, the more he considers himself fallen. The more he considers himself fallen. This is the... So the Goswamis, they actually considered themselves to be the most fallen. And of course, when Mahaprabhu heard that, his heart melted. Mahaprabhu's heart melted. Humility is such an attractive quality, and pride is such an unattractive quality that if a person is proud, then it's so unattractive. But a person is humble, it's so attractive. And Mahaprabhu, he was so attracted to their qualities. Danna chara, toma danna fete mormon, aj ke tomanam, aj hoite tomanam rup shanaton. Danna chara, give up the humility. Danna chara. Tomar danna fete mormon. Your humility is breaking my heart. It's breaking. I cannot tolerate. You're so qualified, but you have such humility. It's aj hoite tomanam rup sanaton. From today, you will be called Rupa and Sanatan. So they weren't wandering just here and there. They were requested by Mahaprabhu to remain in Vrindavan. Echai Goshai Jabe Braja Koilabas, Radha Krishna Nittalila Korila Prakash, Radha Braja Koilabas, they were requested. But even in Vrindavan, they didn't even get a little apartment or a little room, nothing. So this is the mendicants. They're wandering from one place to the other. In this way, traditionally, this way one can remain the detached. Because you stay in one place, then immediately you start accumulating things and arrangements for your program, and then so many things accumulate. But constantly traveling, satjati, sannyasi, satjati. They're already gone. Sat, jati, they've already gone. They're not considering that they're in this world. They're so absorbed in the spiritual life that so this is a sadhu, is a genuine sadhu. And the responsibility of the other ashrams is to actually take over that concern for the for the meals and for the residence of the sadhus, is that the householders actually responsible to take over that that concern. And in this way society functions. So here in Navadip, when Goswanda was performing his lila, the society was very aristocratic. It was very devout. And there's one Brahmin, one day he just came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, unknown person. In ISKCON, our sannyasis, they're going, but everywhere is devotees. It's ISKCON. He's ISKCON authorized. ISKCON devotees. ISKCON are there. It's not like you're just wandering around and someone will, and Krishna will arrange someone to accommodate me. It's all, the schedule is set months in advance. I remember Gopijana Krishna Babu, he's smiling here. I used to visit Balaram Desh. And the way the devotees would accommodate you. Everything, every day, different cooks. Every day someone cooking, and so many items. And I would say, Prabhu, don't bring so many items. And he'd say, oh, Prabhu, he's always happy. He'd say, oh, Prabhu, the devotees, they want to cook for you. I want to cook for you so much. And I said, oh, please, so many items. Yeah. But they would arrange, as the opportunity they get, and they would arrange. But actually, he's an unknown mendicant. He walks into the house of Jagannath Mishra, and immediately Jagannath Mishra, who's this guy? No, immediately stands up. And he receives. Vrindavan Das Thakur describes the description of this mendicant. Parama Shukriti ek Taitika Brahman, Taitika, pilgrim Brahman. Krishna Udesha Kore Tirtha Parjanton. Krishna Udesha. For pleasing Lord Krishna, Tirtha Parjanton. He's going from one holy place to another. Which usually the sadhus are doing, going from one holy place to another, and on the way, whatever. But these genuine sadhus, you see they're carrying a bag, that's it. That's it, everything in that bag, for winter, summer, everything in that bag. And he describes his character, as I mentioned, generally in ISKCON we're introduced to all of our administrative achievements. So, position. We have to have a position. He doesn't have a position. Sadakar Gopal Mantra Kore Upashan. Shadakar Gopal Mantra Kore Upashan. His worship, his sadhana, is chanting the 6-syllable Gopal Mantra. And that's how he's introduced. His spiritual practice, that's the character. His spiritual practice is described. That's how he's introduced. Sadaka Gopal Mantra Kore Upashan. Gopal Noibedda Bina Na Kore Bhojan. Gopal Noibedda Bina. Apart from that which is offered to Gopal, Na Kore Bhojan. He doesn't eat anything. What devotion? That is a very serious brata. Exclusively my tongue is used for Srimad Tulasam Rasanam Tadapite, as in the case of Ambarish Maharaj, tasting the tulasi leaves which have been offered to, and nothing else. Only my tongue is used exclusively. Rishikena Rishikesha Shevanam, Bhaktir Uttam, first class. Only not used for anything else. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, Nam Shri Krishna Na Bhaved Graham Indriyai, Shebon Mukhi Hi Jibado, Shebon Mukhi Hi Jibado. Only for Krishna the Bhoga, Naibedda, which is offered, and nothing else. What a brata. And how Krishna becomes obligated to such a devotee. How he becomes, only you eat my remnants and nothing else? Only you discuss about me and no other subjects? How he becomes, what a relationship. And Jagadamba says, we're so fortunate today, you're wandering here and there. By some good fortune, you come to my home. Please let me cook for you. Please let us cook for you. Don't even know him. Immediately come invite him in. Please let us cook for you. And so they clean the kitchen. The Brahmin is going to cook for himself, and he's carrying around his neck Shalagram Shila and the Gopal Deity. This is his Alanka Bhushan. This is his only decorations. His Shalagram Shila and Gopal. Even carrying a deity around one's neck, that's also a very high level. One's always in the deity room, level of purity. So he's going to cook. So they clean the kitchen. And then he cooks, he sits, he cooks the offerings. And then he's making the offering. And then the Sachinandan, he's here. He's right there. You're offering to me, you're meditating on me. He comes. He puts the Brahman's in meditation, Sachinandan, and he's eating the offering. And then the Brahman, he breaks his meditation, opens his, hi, the child has spoiled the offering. Jagadambisa comes running. What? Oh, disaster. Oh, no. And then Nimai runs away. The Brahman, he says, okay, no, don't worry. Bon bashiyami. I live in the forest. I'm satisfied just with fruits and roots. Just bring some fruits and roots. It'll be enough. No, please. Then everyone that was there, all of the relatives, all of the assistants, everyone gathered, and they begged that mendicant, please cook again. Oh, okay, if you all desire. So he cooks again. And then they say, take Nimai to another house. He may, mischievous boy, he may, again, take him to another place. And the ladies, they're chastising Nimai. We don't know who's this Brahmin. You've lost your caste. And Nimai says, no problem when a cowherd boy eats the food of a Brahmin. But they didn't understand the philosophical implications of his statement. So he's there, and then they're playing with Nimai, but he knows Nimai, he's antarjami, he's in the super soul of all. He knows that the Brahmin is cooking again. He can't resist. He can't resist. He wants to taste that offering. He's offering to me. He can't resist. Again, he slips away. The Brahmin in meditation again. Nimai's eating. The Brahmin opens his eyes. Oh, again, the child has spoiled the offering again. This is too much. Jagadambisa, he comes running with a stick. His stick. It's a god. His son is God. He's got the stick. Jagadambisa doesn't know that Nimai is God. Jagadambisa doesn't know that in a previous life he was Nanda Baba. Can you imagine such a thing? You're Nanda Baba, you live in Vrindavan, Nanda Dulal is your son and you don't even remember? How is that possible? That's because the love is so extreme. Keval Shuddha Prem, Aisharja Najane, Aisharja Deklaya Nija Shambhanda Shaimane. Mahaprabhu is describing the Braja Prem. The love is so deep that they cannot conceive him as God. It's not out of illusion, it's out of such intense love that there's no room for opulence. Aisharja Najane, Braja Keval Shuddha Prem. There's no room for that he's God. It's such a relationship of Vatsalya Ras. It's so intense that there's no room for anything else. Not even that he's God. That's how strong it is. Aisharja Deklayo, even he displays opulence. And sometimes in a dream, one Brahmin, a Fulgent Brahmin, said to Jagannath that you shouldn't chastise your son. In fact, you cannot correct him. In fact, you cannot give him education. He's Jnana Samudra. He's the ocean of knowledge. He's on the level of the Supreme Lord Narayan in a dream. Imagine a dream like that. A Fulgent Brahmin telling you. And in the dream, Jagadambisa replies, Mr. Kohe, Deb, Shiti Muni Keni Noi, Jai She Boruhok Matro Amantanoi. Mr. Kohe, in the dream, he replies, Deb, Shiti Muni Keni Noi. Yes, my son may be a great Rishi, a Muni, a perfect being, Siddhi, a Dev, a God, or the Supreme God. Jai She Boruhok. No matter who he is, Matro Amartanoi. But as far as I'm concerned, he's my son. And my responsibility. So this is such intense Vatsalya Ras. He takes a stick. Where is that Nimai? Where is that? And then the Brahman, he's holding him back. No. The child doesn't know what's the difference between good and bad. He doesn't know. He has no discrimination, not developed yet. Bicha komatane, like the way people drive around Mayapur. They can't tell the difference between a main highway and a walking path. It's just Vicha komatane. They cannot discriminate. So then he's saying, don't chastise, beating him will be of no. And Jagadambisa says, with his head in his hands, what to do? And then the Brahmin says, it's like late at night now, just bring some roots and fruits. I'm happy with the roots and fruits. It's Krishna's Krishna is ordained, I will not eat rice today. Then Viṣarup appears. Viṣarup Mahashai. Viṣarup. He's 16, 17 years old. Viṣarup. And what a form, what a beautiful. Nityananda Prakash. So beautiful. And just seeing him, the Brahmin is completely enchanted. Who is this? Who is this? The parents of this boy. And Shrabane, Vadane, Mane, Shavendriya, Gone, Krishna Bhakti, Bine, Na, Bole, Na, Shune. Viṣarup is described. Shrabane, he's hearing. Vadane, he's speaking. Mane, he's thinking. Shavendriya, Gone, with all of his senses. Vishnu Bhakti, Bine, apart from serving, Na, Shune, Na, Bole. He doesn't hear anything, doesn't say anything. What a transcendental person. Transcendental person. And just seeing the Brahmin is completely enamored. Just seeing Viṣarup. What to speak of? He starts to speak. He sits down. Viṣarup sits down. He sits down and begins speaking. That we're so fortunate that such a pure soul, so dear to Sri Hari has come to our house. And we have such good fortune that we can feed you today. How by feeding you, all auspiciousness will come to us. But if you remain fasting in our home, how that will be the cause of complete destruction of our entire dynasty. Amangal, Sharva Amangal. So out of kindness for us, you kindly cook again. And the Brahmin is saying, oh, come on, it's already past midnight. I've tried 2 times. You have to accept Krishna's plan. Have to accept Krishna's plan. I'm not meant to cook today. And Viṣarup, he held the feet. He held the feet of that Brahmin. He clasped his feet. It's very difficult to refuse a person's request if they're clasping your feet. Viṣarup, he clasped his feet. Please cook again. Okay. So in the middle of the night, already past midnight, again they cleaned the kitchen. Again the Brahmin's cooking. And someone said, take Nimai to the other place and lock him in the room. Tie the door from the outside. And then the lady said, no problem. Nimai's fallen asleep. It's late at night. No more mistress from Nimai. So then the Brahmin's cooking there in the middle of the night. And then everyone's fallen asleep. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that Nidra Devi Shadi brushed their cheeks. Nidra Devi Shadi brushed, they fell asleep. And the Brahmin's making the offering, ringing the bell. Nimai hears. He goes, he's eating that offering. The Brahmin opens his eyes. He goes, oh no. He's calling out, hi, 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 hi. Everyone's asleep. Everyone's asleep. No one can hear him. And Nimai says, what a Brahmin? What sort of a Brahmin? Yeah. What sort of a Brahmin are you? You keep asking me. You keep asking me to come. You keep asking me to come. And then I'm here. More mantra jape, more avahan, rohite na pariyami ashi tomarstan. More mantra jape, you chant my mantra. More avahan, you invite me. Rohite na pari, I cannot restrain myself. Rohite na pari, ashi tomarstan. I come here to eat your offerings. And then he displayed a form never before seen. Yeah, Sheikhane deki Vipra Parama Adbhuta. At that time, the Vipra saw an extremely extraordinary form, never before seen. Parama Adbhut. Shankha Chakra Gada Padma Ashtabhuj Roop. Ashtabhuj Roop, 8-arm form he saw. Where is that 8-arm form? We see 6-arm form, Sadbhuj deity. We don't see the Ashtaroop, but such a form was there. The description is very beautiful, and everything in the meditation of that Brahmin became manifest in his dhyan of Vrindavan, Gopa, Gopigan, the cowherd man, the cowherd girls, Kadamba trees, the Jamuna, everything that he would meditate on, it became manifest there in the house of Sachinandan, as the Brahmin was in meditation and making his offering. And this is the practice of sadhana bhakti. Tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tat anantaram. By the meditation, by the Krishna consciousness, tato mam tattvato gyatva, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, vishate tat anantaram. You enter into that. You enter into the meditation that you cultivate in your sadhana bhakti. You enter into that as an objective of life. And then he displayed his opulence. And this way, in their childhood pastimes, he said, don't tell anybody who I am. You can remain here and see my pastimes, but don't tell anyone. Yeah? And the Brahmin was very, how will I not tell these people that the Supreme Lord Hari is their child? How will I not tell them? So he's taking that food, he's taking the food, he's eating it, he's rubbing it on his body, he's dancing, saying, Jai Gopal, Jai Gopal. The Jagadhan Misra and the other residents, they woke up, they heard him chanting, Jai Gopal, Jai Gopal. He's rubbing the food on his body, he's eating, Jai Gopal. They come, they open the door, the Brahmin has taken his meal. The Brahmin has taken his meal. So some thoughts on today's verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Any questions? Yes? Yeah.
Six-arm form, Ram, Krishna, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so all the other two arms.
Yeah, well the verse says here, Shekhane deke bipra param odbhut, Shankha chakra gara padma ashtabhuj roop. Ashtabhuj roop, an 8-arm form.
The chakra, that means he was
yeah, there's 4 arms, the Shankha chakra gara padma, the 4, and the other 2 were yogurt, and I think the flute, I can't remember, he's holding the flute, 2 arms, and eating yogurt. Ashtabhuj, 8-arm form.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the purport it is written that doorkeepers has not denied the entry to the 4 Kumaras. Correct. My point is, and then 4 Kumaras got angry on that. Now, I just wanted to correlate, if something has happened with us, and if we'll get angry on the doorkeepers or security or all these things, and if our devotees will be around, they will say, oh, you don't understand, Trunadupi Sunichena, Taropi Sunichena, how come you become angry on this? Because they are doing their job. So my point is, my question is, how we should understand that situation, 4 Kumaras and ours, because how come they are very scholars, how come they become angry and ready to punish those gatekeepers when they are doing their job?
Yeah, it's Leela. It's Leela. In the whole chapter, we'll be describing, but how the Lord responds. He comes and considers, it's Leela that, I mean, you say, why Jai and Vijay prevented them? That's the question, why they prevented them. But that's also Leela, because when the Lord comes, He explains that I accept the fault of my subordinate, the fault of my subordinate is my responsibility. The Lord says that. So all of this is put together so the Lord can perform His Leela and display His qualities and His affection to His devotees.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I was going through the purport and the last few lines caught my attention. It says, even to this day, a saintly person is never checked from entering anyone's door in India. Wherein we see today the situation is completely contrary. It's very difficult for saintly people to get entry. In fact, for that matter, you know, when Srila Prabhupada was trying to have his meeting done with Srimati Morarji, he also had to wait for a couple of days before actually getting her audience and speaking to her on the discussion of his leaving for America, right? And here Prabhupada says that they're not usually checked from entering anyone's door in India. What would be your thoughts?
We commented in the beginning on that perhaps in Prabhupada's time. Yeah, Prabhupada, he waited 5 hours outside Sumati Maharajji's office in Mumbai. He waited there 5 hours, you know, and he wouldn't go away. I guess he was refused entry. We wouldn't go away. And then she was leaving in the evening and she said, oh, is this Swami? He's waiting. Oh, he's been waiting all day. And then she spoke and he said he wanted to publish the 3rd volume of the 1st canto. And he requested her, this was before, you know, the Skindia Shimship request. He requested her to sponsor the 3rd volume of the 1st canto, and she agreed to do that, and so she sponsored that. So yeah, we mentioned that nowadays it's not, I mean, husbands are at work, ladies are at home. It's not like when in this Vedic culture where the man is at home, the husbands are not at home, they're in the office, and so ladies are at home, so there's security, and people are all degraded and debauchees these days, so what to do? So that's why, at least in a place like Mayapur, we have Mayapur, such a community. I mean, I have a place here in the housing area. Sometimes the Gurukulis used to come. Gurukulis used to come at the time of the Upanayan Diksha, and we would invite them and give them alms. And even in the neighborhood here, that sannyasis come. I have a place here, the sannyasis come, and like that. So at least in a place like Mayapur, we could aspects of this culture can be maintained. But in the big cities and everything, what to do? It's things are degraded. Everything is becoming. You can't trust people, and so what to do? But at least amongst our society, if devotees are in the community, then they can be invited. If there's traveling preachers who come to your community, then you can invite them to your home and give them all offer them all the comforts of your home and feed them. Yeshang shangshmaranat sadya shadya shudanti vaigriha. Shadya shudyanti vaigriha. One's house becomes completely purified. Yeshang shangshmaranat sadya, just by remembering a mendicant preacher, King Puna Sparshana Pada Shochashanadi be, what to speak of touching them, seeing them, or offering them a seat, or washing their feet. So these activities in your home, you seek opportunity to serve Vaishnava Brahmins, renunciates in that way, and the whole house will be purified. And on that point, we will conclude the discussion today, because 8 o'clock is the special darshan for Akshaya Tritiya, and the Lord's beautifully dressed, and we'll see the Chandan decorating the body of Sisi Radha Madhav, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.